So hello there and welcome back to the channel. This is Mels Gaming here with another The Hunter Call of the Wild video. Now this video was recorded during the early access for the Rapid Hunt Rifle Pack and the March update, so a huge thank you to EW and to the Hunter Network program for allowing me to actually take part in this and be able to make content on this update. Now this update with the Rapid Hunt Rifle Pack DLC and everything else that we're going to talk about in this video will be releasing tomorrow, March 25th. So not very long to wait at all between the release of this video and all of the exciting things we're going to talk about in this video. Now, before we actually get into everything, I do just want to say, unfortunately, I haven't been able to spend as much time with this early access as I would have liked to, due to a few real-life things, but basically this video is going to be an overview of everything that's coming on the 25th. We're going to talk about the rifles, we're going to go through all the patch notes, literally everything that's going to be arriving on the 25th, we're going to talk about in this video. So, we're going to start off by going through the patch notes, and the patch notes are extensive. As soon as we were given access to the patch notes and I took a look through them, I was amazed at just how much is in these patch notes in terms of fixes and everything. There is a lot, and there is one particular thing that makes me very happy, and we'll get to that in a second. So, starting off, highlights. A Himalayan tahr has been spotted on Te Awaroa. This migration may impact the local chamois population, so basically chamois on Te Awaroa have been reset, and yes, I do struggle a little bit with that pronunciation, but basically chamois on Te have been reset for their population. They have had a full population reset. But now Himalayan tahr will not only be on Sundar Patan, they will also be on Te Awaroa. There was a little bit of confusion that I saw in some discords. Himalayan tahr are the same species that are on Sundar Patan. It's not a different species, they are the exact same thing. It's kind of always been a mislabel that they have just been called tahr on Sundar Patan. So I'm expecting that they will have like the same label now between both maps, seeing as they are now finally being called Himalayan tahr, which is really fantastic. Also under highlights, a number of weapons have had their scope attachment points reviewed and redone. This also means that many weapons had their accuracy refined, so that is really nice to see. So anything that was a little bit off about the scopes should now be fixed. I saw a lot of people talking about that since the last update, so that's really good to see. But the one thing that seriously excites me, the first thing under bug fixes. This is something that if you saw my video a few months ago trying to get 100% achievements in Call of the Wild, you'll know that there was a broken achievement that basically locked me at 159 out of 160 achievements, even though I had all the requirements for it. Well, I am very excited to be able to say that bug fixes achievements made it possible to get the achievement for completing the Quattro Colinas mission arc if it didn't previously unlock correctly. So if you were like me and had all the other achievements and that one wouldn't unlock because it's been bugged for a while, that's fixed. And I am so pleased now that when I go to my Steam profile and I look at my Call of the Wild info, it shows, finally it shows 160 out of 160, which that just makes me so happy because seeing it stuck on 159 out of 160 bothered me no end. So I did mention it several times to the devs and I am so grateful that they have fixed that. That is absolutely fantastic. But scrolling on, down through the bug fixes, animals. Fixed an issue where snow leopards would sometimes get stuck vaulting. So fixing the animations, that's really good. An issue where waterfowl would get stuck in the air on multiplayer has been fixed. That's fantastic. As someone who loves to hunt waterfowl, I have seen that. That's really cool to see that fixed. Floating rabbit burrows on Hirschfelden should no longer float. Awesome. Ground birds should no longer appear to bounce up after being hit in the air. So that's something that we've seen quite a lot, I believe, with like pheasants and grouse and stuff, when people have been grinding them, especially on the pheasant grind. So that's really, really cool. Turkeys can now start flying again after being flushed. Nice fix. Geese weren't honking enough. Now they're having a honking good time. I like the way that's been worded. That's really, really funny. Blood clues for waterfowl will now drop in the right locations. That is fantastic. Waterfowl will more consistently die when hit with birdshot. Now, I wonder if that might be also like affecting things like pheasants with the 10 gauge. That's going to be an interesting one to experiment more, because I know I even personally reported that the 10 gauge seemed to be really weak. I wonder if that's sort of alluding to that. That's one that we'll have to experiment more with. And finally, under the animals section, northern red muntjac antlers now generate as they were meant to. I'm not even entirely sure what bug that's referring to. Whether that's something that, you know, they've been not spawning as intended since release. I don't know. I never saw any problems with the northern red muntjac antlers. They always seemed fine to me. If you know what that bug was, I would be really interested to hear about it, because as far as I was concerned, they looked fine, always. So I'll be really interested to hear about that. So, bug fixes under the dogs section. Resolve the bug which caused dogs to get stuck running in circles, trying to find a path. Oh my days, I experienced that bug a lot. That's really, really good to see that getting fixed. Fix an issue where dogs would appear to stop following you under certain conditions. I had that so much. So glad to see that getting fixed. Trained the dogs to react properly to gunshots. Really brilliant to see as well. Fixed an issue where dogs weren't able to focus on the task at hand once you entered or left a hunting structure. I experienced that a lot as well. That's fantastic. Oh, solved issues with dogs getting stuck trying to retrieve harvests. I know I had that a lot. I know that several people I spoke to were experiencing that a lot. That's fantastic. Trained dogs to stop sneaking when birds are alerted. That is amazing to see that getting fixed. Made sure dogs wouldn't stop trying to flush a bird even if it got far away. Brilliant. Resolved a crash that would sometimes occur when dogs would investigate clues. Love seeing crash fixes always. Fixed a crash that would occur when opening the dog wheel while the dog hadn't spawned yet. Another crash fix. Brilliant. Fixed a crash triggered by the dog pointing to an animal that had despawned. That's another really good one to see. When putting a dog in your kennel, the dog UI will no longer incorrectly appear. That's lovely. That's a real, like, quality of life thing, because you'd put the dog away and then sometimes it would still show like the dog was with you on the UI, so that's really brilliant. We fixed an issue with the pointed dog's tongue during interaction, so like an animation type thing. That's good to see. The spot point command will no longer become unavailable after rapidly selecting it multiple times. That's really good. When you look at someone interacting with their dog in multiplayer, their arms will now look normal and not creepy and dislocated. Brilliant. That's brilliant to see. Even if it was quite funny, good to see being fixed. And if you have the Pointer Dog DLC, you will now be able to unlock dog treats properly. Again, fantastic. Lots and lots of fantastic fixes just under that little section for the dogs. Brilliant. But we've still got more. Still got more bug fixes. So bug fixes, equipment. Deploying the Gadwall hen decoy will now correctly show the hen model rather than the drake. So you'll actually know the difference between, you know, the hen models and the drake models when you're putting those decoys down. Fantastic. Slightly reduce the recoil of the 243 rifle. That's an interesting one. That's going to be something interesting to test out. Fix an issue for a few weapons where the player's hand would move unnaturally while jumping. The Gopi 10 gauge shotgun's reload sound will now play properly. If you purchased Sal's Weason, you will unlock the raccoon caller as originally intended. That's great, because I believe the raccoon caller was only coming with Mississippi, which was the original map the common raccoon was on. So really good to see that being fixed. The Odin scope on the Forza Elite 300 has been adjusted, and the tripods will make noise when rotating. Again, another handful of good fixes. But there's still more. Missions. Fixed an issue that caused some players to be stuck on the Emerald Coast report all sightings mission. So if you're somebody that's been trying to do those missions, I know the Emerald Coast side missions, rather than the story missions, are something a lot of people talk about. That's really good to see that getting fixed, because if you're someone that's been doing those, I'm sure that's been something really frustrating for you. And then we have a whole load of multiplayer fixes. When joining a multiplayer game, you should spawn at the nearest unlocked outpost, not at other players' placed tents. Personally, I love this, because I hate when I join a multiplayer and I spawn in at somebody's tent, because if they're there and hunting birds or whatever, it feels so awkward, like I didn't mean to spawn here and be so close to you, I'm sorry, and then I have to travel, like fast travel away as quickly as possible. So for like personal reasons of feeling awkward if I'm spawning in at tents too close to people, really pleased to see that one. When the host leaves a multiplayer game, you will no longer be waiting a lifetime on a never-ending loading screen. That is an issue I encounter all the time. I'm really glad to see that being fixed. When you change modes on the clay shooting range in multiplayer, the change will update immediately. So there was a bit of a delay from what I understand. I haven't messed much with the clay shooting range, but that's really good regardless to see being fixed. Solved an issue where if you joined a game on Sal's Weason, you wouldn't see the correct shooting range mode if it had been changed before you joined. So again, issues with the clay shooting range being fixed, brilliant. Schrodinger's door has been fixed. Doors can no longer be open on one person's screen and closed for another in multiplayer. That's nice. So it doesn't look like people are phasing through doors, basically. Fixed an issue where Apex Connect game invites would fail if your friend was already in a reserve. You should disconnect less often in multiplayer when your connection to the host gets interrupted. Less disconnects in multiplayer. Let's go. That's a fantastic fix to see. So happy about that. Fixed an issue where players with restricted Xbox accounts were unable to join multiplayer games even after being given access by a parent account. That's fantastic, and I'm really pleased to see that for all the Xbox players. That is brilliant. And we still have even more bug fixes. Bug fixes system. PlayStation players should no longer receive an error message after purchasing a DLC from the downloadable content menu. Fix an issue on Xbox and PlayStation where your equipped item would be removed when resuming a paused game. You should experience less memory issues if you're playing on an older console. Fantastic. Setting graphics options to default should work properly now. Resolved a crash that could rarely occur when transitioning between trophy lodges. That's great. And switching to a different instance of the same lodge should load smoother now. That's all brilliant. All fantastic things. Trophies. Fixed an issue with trophies that were part of multi-mounts where trophy information wasn't showing up correctly in investigate mode. This is something I've seen so many people talk about, asking how to fix it, etc. It was a bug in the game. There was nothing like players could do to fix it, so that's really, really, really good to see that being fixed. Really happy about that. UI resolved an Xbox issue where the game could freeze during gameplay if you close the game before from the EULA screen. The tutorial for the pointer dog should display correctly on PlayStation, and added audio for when you select in-game challenges. And speaking of challenges, we'll be talking about those a little bit more in a little bit. And then finally, onto the last section of bug fixes. And then this is the end of the patch notes. I told you guys there was a lot. Bug fixes World. Resolved several issues with pathing on Silver Ridge Peaks. Made certain ghost rocks and logs on Salzwiesen solid, so you won't just be able to run through random rocks and logs. Fixed a few spots on Salzwiesen near the main lodge where the background music would suddenly stop. Paved over a weird line on one of the Salzwiesen bridges. Repaved a road on Salzwiesen which previously led you outside of the park boundaries. Fixed some issues with vegetation placement near the lighthouse on Salzwiesen. Removed some lights that appeared where they shouldn't have on Salzwiesen. Made the walls, stairs and upper floor solid inside of the, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, Ramthali outpost on Sundar Patan, so you can properly rest and access your cache. Fix some issues with grass clipping on Salzwiesen. Properly aligned a point of interest for a cache on Salzwiesen. Adjusted the dog sitting positions for various locations on Salzwiesen. And fixed an issue where rain would go through the roofs of certain covered bridges on Salzwiesen. A lot of Salzwiesen fixes, and a nice one for Sundar Patan in there as well. But oh my gosh, the bug fixes! I told you right at the start, there was a ton. Like, that's going to be the majority of this video, is just reading through all these notes. But it's so important. It's so important, and I hope that people pay attention to this, because there's fixes for the consoles, there's, you know, stuff for the older consoles as well, trying to fix stuff for those. It's not just PC focused, it's focused on so many different things, so many different issues. They have done a fantastic job in trying to fix a whole load of different bugs in this update, and honestly, it makes the update in and of itself a really worthwhile thing. So I am hoping that this will please everybody on all of the different platforms. This is so fantastic to see. I'm really happy to see it. Because, you know, I used to be a console player. There's a reason I use an Xbox controller even though I play on PC. I started off my sort of more, I hate to say more serious gaming, but like when I started playing Call of the Wild and more games, I went to Xbox. And I was an Xbox player for about 1,000 hours of Call of the Wild. So, you know, I understand the issues aren't, you know, just on PC or whatever. Like, seeing issues for consoles get fixed, it brings a big smile to my face because I can imagine the frustration I would have experienced. So I'm really, really pleased to see all of that. That is just fantastic. So many bug fixes. So many bug fixes. Now, I did mention when we were scrolling through all of these bug fixes that I was going to talk a little bit more about the in-game challenges. Now, when Salzwiesen was released, there were in-game challenges added. There have been added to those community challenges, and there is actually one that's going to be coming up very, very soon, in fact, with this update. the Medium March Hunt Community Challenge. It says coming soon, and like I said, I do believe it's obviously going to be coming with this update, considering, you know, we're getting towards the end of March with this update, so I'm assuming it's coming with this from everything that I'm seeing in the patch notes. And there's actually going to be rewards of different cosmetics. Like, you can see in this image that has been shared on their social media that there is going to be at least 3 new cosmetics. Don't know if that's all of the rewards, but we can see at least 3. There's one that kind of looks like a camo-y type pattern with like black stripes. There's like a dark green colour and another wood grain. And on their social media post, it had like the word bar in it. So I don't know whether it's going to be like specifically a sheep focused challenge, because even though blue sheep aren't sheep, they're obviously called blue sheep, and there's a blue sheep on the background of this image here, and it's medium March Hunt. They're a medium game species, so I don't know if it's going to be just like focusing on sheep species or like what their angle for that is going to be, but it's going to be really interesting. And basically with these community challenges, it's going to work if you're familiar with the Hunter Classic and you see their events for like Christmas and stuff, and it'll be the community needs to harvest like, I don't know, 10,000 reindeer, and then everybody gets a tripod, etc. It's going to kind of work like that for each platform. So everybody on PC will need to work together to complete goals to unlock the rewards. Everybody on PlayStation will need to do that as well, and everybody on Xbox will need to do that as well. So it's going to be separate for the 3 platforms, from what I understand. And you're going to have to harvest a certain number of whatever animals this is going to include. Like I said, I'm speculating it's going to be the sheep species in the game because of the blue sheep being in the background, even though I know technically they aren't sheep, but based off of that, or just medium game in general. So that's going to be really interesting to see. But I'm so pleased to see rewards of like actual cosmetics, because the other in-game challenges at the moment, they don't really interest me all that much, I've got to be honest, because they're for things like cash and XP, which, don't get me wrong, they are fantastic for newer players, but for more veteran players who don't need cash and XP, there's no real reason to go and do them. But this, of course I'm going to be going and doing this, because I would like to get those cosmetics. So this is going to be something really fun, I think, for the community as a whole, and I am really excited about that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to talking about the Rapid Fire Rifle Pack in and of itself, the new DLC that's coming with this update, with 3 guns, 2 of which are already existing in-game calibers, and 1 of which is a brand new caliber. Basically, just going to give a little bit of an overview of each of these guns, and take a look at the footage that was shared onto social media by EW themselves. Okay, so starting off with the Perry 308. Now, obviously, 308 is a caliber that we already have in-game. It's a 5-shot capacity rifle, and it's another 4 to 8 class rifle. I said in the very beginning when this pack was announced that basically the 2 calibers that already exist in-game, I don't feel are going to interest many people. And there was some response about it really all kind of depends on the capacity. But from what we now know, every single one of the guns in this pack is a 5-round capacity. So, honestly, my opinions of both the Perry 308 and the Hansen 3006 are great. There are, you know, more variations of the 308 and the 3006. They're more class 4 to 8 rifles, but they're not anything new and they're not really anything unique. I mean, the ammo's going to perform exactly the same because, as I always talk about in these kind of videos where we're talking about rifles and stuff being added to Call of the Wild, how it works in this game is based off of the ammo. So we already have 308 ammo, we already have 3006 ammo, we know how that performs, we know that, yeah, they're very good calibers in game, but to me there's no real reason to buy this pack just for these two rifles. I must say, I'm a fan of how all these guns look and their design, and will I use them? Probably yes at some point, but like for the 308, there's no real reason for me to swap out my already existing 308 for this. Like, they're basically the same thing we've already got, but in a different skin. And because they're 5-round capacity, it doesn't really change, you know, like, it doesn't make them any better than what we already have, if that makes sense. It doesn't change the game on those calibers. It's not like it's got more ammo capacity and it makes it so much better than an already existing version of that gun in game, if that makes sense. And I find that that's a little bit unfortunate for these two guns, but as I said in my original look at this DLC, with the very limited information that we had, there was going to be one standout. And that is the new gun in this pack. The Quist Reaper 7.62 by 39. Now this gun is the different one in this pack. And I said it in my previous video about this pack, there is always, in these weapon packs, one standout. Almost always, there'll be 3 weapons and then there's one that makes it worth buying the pack. In my opinion, it's going to be this, for this pack. This gun is a class 2 to 6, so immediately is a different, it's a change up to the other two, which are more 4 to 8s. We don't have a lot of class 2 to 6s in Call of the Wild, so this actually offers a new perspective and a new rival for this category. And from what I have seen and what I have heard from other creators as well, because like I said, I haven't actually been able to spend a whole lot of time on this early access build myself for real life reasons, this is going to be a serious rival to the 243. And the 243 has been a staple for a very, very long time. So if you're still using the 243 rifle, this could be a serious opponent for it in your loadout. Now, will it be something I use in my main loadout? Maybe not, because I tend to use the 243 pistol for capacity reasons. However, for things like my Red Fox grind, I might consider switching to this, because from everything I'm hearing, it's a bit of a powerhouse. And I'm really actually excited to go and test this on some things. And I do like the way the gun looks, and like I said, it is actually a new caliber versus repeats of ones we've already got with the other two guns, the 3006 and the 308. So you might want to buy this pack just for the fact to have this brand new caliber. This is the standout. As soon as this pack was announced, we could take a look at what was in it, and it all came down to ammo capacity. From everything I read in comments and on various social media platforms, it was all going to come down to, especially for the 308 and the 3006, the ammo capacity. And because they're 5 rounds each, they're really not standout compared to what's already in the game. For me personally, the real reason for buying this pack, and the real reason I'd probably recommend it, will be the Quist Reaper 7.62 by 39, because it's a new caliber, it's a 2-6, which, like I said, we don't have a lot of 2-6 weapons, so it's something new for that category. And if it, you know, if it could replace the 243 in your loadout, it gives more variety, even if you don't always use it, just something different. But I can fully appreciate, you know, if you're more than happy using the 243, then maybe you want to stick with the 243 and not get this. But from everything I've heard, this gun is darn good, and I can't wait to actually be able to go and put it fully through its paces. Like I said, I haven't been able to do it, and that is a shame, but I did do some talking to other creators before I made this video, and this does seem to be exactly what I expected, the standout gun of this pack. And I mean, like I said, it was pretty obvious from the minute that this pack was revealed that this was going to be the gun that you buy the pack for. So definitely not the most standout DLC we've ever seen, but something interesting. You know, they are still new guns to play around with. Obviously, I'm going to be taking them out, trying to get trophies with them, and just experiment with them. Like I said, we already fully know what to expect from the 3006 and the 308, but I'm going to be a lot more excited to put the Quist Reaper through its paces and try and get some trophies with that, and honestly just explore this update with all of those amazing bug fixes. That for me is the biggest thing about this update, if I'm honest with you, is all of those bug fixes. That is fantastic. I'm excited to go and check out fully what it's like to hunt Himalayan tar on Tay, and, you know, maybe I'll take the Quist Reaper up into the mountains and go and see if we can get a trophy tar or two, and, you know, explore what it might be like for tar grinding, and just really fully go and explore all of these different changes and stuff. And like I said, I am really just thrilled about that particular achievement being fixed. That is such a personal, like, that one is a personal happiness for me. When I saw that on the bug fix list, I was absolutely ecstatic, so really thrilled about that. I'm also curious to go and hunt Muntjac and see if I notice any differences, because I'm really curious about that. I didn't know that there was any bugs with Muntjac antlers, and I've not heard of any, so unless you guys can tell me what that was, I'm going to be curious as to whether there's more antler types that are supposed to spawn, like shapes and stuff, and they haven't been spawning, or exactly what's going on there. So that'll be something to investigate. But there's just so much coming in this update, aside from the DLC. So I'll be very interested to hear all your opinions on basically all of the bug fixes, which was 99% of this video, the rifles, and once this pack comes out, I'll be very curious to hear what you guys all think, especially about the Quist Reaper, because like I said, I feel like that's going to be the one that everybody's talking about. I don't feel like the other two are going to get talked about very much. They're probably going to be, you know, acquired because you've bought the pack and then maybe get used for novelty purposes, but I don't think that they're going to be the reason you buy this pack, perhaps. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope I have done a decent job of covering all of the info that we have, and, you know, with the community challenge coming up, I'm really excited about that. Can't wait to see all of your responses about that. That's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I do apologise that I haven't been able to actually go through the update, you know, it's in itself, and like play it as much as I perhaps would have wanted to, but real life is real life and sometimes things get in the way. But I did want to put out an overview video just to give you guys as much information about what is coming as absolutely possible. So that is going to be it for this one. So thank you so much for watching and for all your amazing support, patience and love as always. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.